Let's do this again. Welcome to the Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Look, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I do not know what the hell happened. I think I know exactly what happened, but for some reason, I had set the stream, and when I set the stream, it instead gave me an error message that it couldn't be loaded, and then it finally loaded, and then when I saw on the background in YouTube, it already had two streams up. So I think I deleted the second one or the first one. I can't remember, but I deleted one, and that was a stream that I was supposed to be on. And so it just, because of that error message, that threw me off. So I do apologize for that, everybody. Thank you so very much for sticking around and moving over to this one. And yes, this is the stream that we're going to be doing today. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, I wasn't able to create another Rockfin stream. So I'm sorry for that. But we are live on Rumble. I think we're live on Rumble. We should be live on Rumble. If I don't see my face on Rumble, well, then I'm sorry for that too. But let me see. Yep, we're live on Rumble. So, okay. So if you are watching on Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube. So thank you very much for sticking around for that, guys. My apologies again. But if you guys have not already, please go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much. We have that there. And also, by the way, if you guys have not, go ahead and also give a share and subscribe as well too. That helps us out very much to be able to reach more people, to be able to talk about these stories as well. So thank you so very much to everybody for that. Also, if you guys have not already, you guys could go ahead and subscribe to our Substack at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com, so you guys can get those email notifications where we go live and upload clips. As well as, if you guys would like to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com, so that you guys can give any encouraging words or some stories that you guys find interesting as well. So thank you very much for that there. Now that we're back to square one, go ahead and say hello there. By the way, I'm going to give you all a full disclaimer. My ass is tired. I still haven't even finished my post-workout smoothie yet. I got home less than an hour ago. So needless to say, I ain't up for the bullshit today. And by up for the bullshit, I mean the bullshit of our government, the bullshit of this capitalist system, and the bullshit from these billionaire parasites. I ain't up for it. And you shouldn't be either. You shouldn't. Because we're human beings now. We have to endure a lot. Let's get to the comments and say our hellos really quick, and then we'll get into the show. All right, we have CBC Voter coming in saying, "You're the boss, JB. I ain't nobody's boss." No. I'm nobody's boss. Look, I just try to do the best I can with what I got, and that's it. But I appreciate it. That's very, very kind of you. But I don't want to be over anybody. I just want to be beside everybody. That make any sense? Yeah. Terry Connolly says, "Greetings, JB and comrades." All right. Yes. Humberto says, "Hey, JB, free to $100. Yes, thank you so very much. DJ Leader coming in saying, "Change the stream. Running late after Sunday brunch with the libs." What's up, brothers, JB and RBN fam? Yeah, right. I was at lunch with the libs. I had a free tata. A free tata. Yeah, I had a free tata, and I also was doing planks. Ooh, Lord, them core exercises. My goodness. Wow. It was intense. Anyway, good to see you. Vicky coming in saying, "It's okay, JB." Thank you so very much. Roger says, DM already waiting for you, JB. Okay, thank you so very much. I'll get to that in a second. Vicky says, gotta water the garden. Have a great show. Okay, water your plants and water yourself. It's hot out there, Miss Vicky. All right. L says, it's not Trump's war on the homeless. It's the ruling class war on the homeless. I mean, yeah. Stand corrected on that one. Americans have to stop using the illusion language like the president matters. Comment on the title, not the content. Okay. I mean, yeah, I mean, it is the ruling class war on the homeless, but he's part of the ruling class. He's a billionaire. You know what I mean? So before he was the president, he was part of the ruling class. You know, he was the part of the parasite class. So, you know, but duly noted. Thank you so very much. We got Leroy coming in saying, good day, fam. Good to see you, Leroy. Now, we're going to get into this now because I was running a little bit late. That is my bad. But I can't talk today. What are we talking about today? Let's get into it. All right. Let's see that beautiful thumbnail. All right. So later we're going to talk about the Handala captured. This was live in everybody's face yesterday. There were thousands watching and screen recording. And we all saw it with our own two eyes. And as well, first, we're going to be talking about Trump's war. This one is, yeah, we knew this was coming. It was coming. And now it's here. So we're going to get into it. So I'm going to say it. The United States hates homeless people. This government, no matter which party, it's ruling parasitic troglodytes are monsters who don't care about people and their well-being. And why do I say that? Because there's really been a war against the impoverished and the homeless really since this country began. And it's been ramping up over and over and over again. And as we can see, it is becoming harder and harder to be housed in this country. A shout out to people like Roger Meadows and my sister Savvy Saps for introducing me to the National Low Income Housing the Out of Reach program, or report, I should say, that shows how much it costs to afford a 2-bedroom apartment within the United States, as well as in Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. And it shows that it's becoming even more increasingly difficult just to be able to afford a 2-bedroom or even a 1-bedroom apartment. And so now we're at a point where, and I spoke about this last year, a lot of boomers are becoming homeless. They're struggling because even though they saved up for retirement, that's nowhere near, because of inflation, that's nowhere near what they need in order to be able to continue to live. And forget Social Security. That don't help hardly anything at all. You might be able to get groceries, a little extra groceries with it, but outside of that, maybe you can rent a closet. So there's a war on the poor. There's a war on homelessness. There's war on impoverished people. AKA, this is what we call a class war. This has been going on for centuries in this country. And this class war is taking us all out. I'm trying to be careful with my language because I don't want to get us in trouble on YouTube. Plus, this channel just ain't mine. But it's taking us all out. It's unaliving millions of us. And so I want to get into this really quick because Donald Trump recently signed an executive order. And let's get into this here. Let's see. All right. And then we'll get into the gory detail.
Big and small. The president does set off for Scotland. Federal agencies are looking to tackle the American homelessness problem following President Trump's new executive order. That order meant to push city governments, both big and small, to crack down on homeless encampments and get the unhoused into treatment. But advocates say it could only make the problem worse. Correspondent Alex Capriello is live for us here in Chicago with the details. So, Alex, what is in this executive order?
Yeah, so essentially, Nicole, it's giving cities and states whatever authority necessary to get homeless men, women, and children off city streets and actually into treatment centers to face their problems head on, including addiction. The president is also directing his administration at the federal level to prioritize some of these cities across the country that are already enforcing those bans that might be there for public camping, for drug use, and squatting. Now, as we all know, across America, solving the issue of homelessness has been a central issue for years. There are some 771,000 homeless men, women, and children living on city streets back in 2024, an increase of about 18% from the previous year. And more than a third of that total actually live out there on the street. Some cities have already taken steps to restrict homelessness in America. They're the ones that are marked in red right here on this map and are just a few examples of the place that president says he's going to prioritize. They're cities like Los Angeles, Seattle, and Albuquerque. Those that have not created restrictions, they're marked in blue. That includes Chicago, New York, Philly, and New Orleans. But the battle to get a handle on this crisis is nuanced and widespread all across the country. In Portland, for example, city council meetings have ended in shouting matches as citizens have complained about not feeling safe on their own streets thanks to rampant and widely open drug use and alcoholism. Then say,
okay, hang on. Let me pause there for a second. Because the whole put them in treatment centers. So are we going to acknowledge now that drug addiction is a medical issue instead of a criminal issue? Are we going to start acknowledging that now? Also, while we're at it, you know what could help alleviate the drug addiction issue? Come here. Housing people. Housing people could help alleviate the need for a drug addiction because many people who become unhoused get addicted to drugs after they become homeless, after they are out there on the streets, because it is stressful as hell out there. Have you ever been homeless before? You see, this is what gripes me. You have this urine-colored comb-over bullshitter that never lived out on the streets, and it's like, I doubt that Donald Trump has ever even laid on grass, and he wants to talk about trying to alleviate homelessness, but you never knew what it likes to even go without. Most of these trust fund babies don't have no idea what it's like. Hell yeah, some people are addicted to some substances. Why? Because you're out there. And guess what? You know how stressful, how horrible it is? And so now what you got to do is you have to learn how to cope with it. So yeah, some people may get addicted to some substances, even alcohol. Why? Because they're trying to escape. Because the situation is so dire that what do they have? They have nothing. They have nothing. And now you got the police on their back just when they're trying to get a couple winks. And here's the thing. Do I want them to be out there on the street? Hell no, I don't want them to be out there on the street. I don't. But the problem is that it's the way people are going about it. You know what ends homelessness? Homes. Homes. I don't know exactly how I can make it any more plainer to y'all. And then here's the problem. This is how capitalism works. It's a very nasty system. Because what it will do, it will say, it will allow homelessness to exist. So that it shows people like you and me who might be either housing insecure or barely housed at all, that you see those people out there in the streets, you see that person pushing that cart with all their stuff, you see that person living in a tent on the curb, you see that? If you don't let me exploit you more and put you deeper into wage slavery, you're going to be just like that person out there on the street. So you're going to accept my exploitation, or you're going to wind up like them. That's how it works. That's the system. And then it also puts into our minds, oh, wait, they're out there on the street. That means they're not working, or they're not working hard enough. Therefore, I must be working hard enough. Therefore, I'm a better human being than they are. My life matters more. Oh, so you had this sense of being better than people, higher than people, that your life matters more, that your sensibilities matter more. Oh, I don't want to see that. I don't want to witness that. Put them someplace where we can't see them. That's how it works. That's how capitalism works. And now you add the further exploitation of them being jailed, them maybe going to prison. And then we have these prisons, some for profit, some owned by the state, where they will put the prisoners to work for either free or nearly free to make products for them or do services, which is slavery. Because as we know, according to the 13th Amendment, slavery has an exception. It's not fully outlawed in the United States. Yes, slavery still exists, just as the inmates at Angola prison in Louisiana, while they're out in the hot sun like today, still picking cotton. That exists today in the year of our Lord, 2025. Jaybe, what's your solution? Give people homes. It's not that simple. Yes, the fuck it is. How many vacant houses do we have in this country? We have more vacant houses than we do have homeless people. And you mean to tell me we can't house them? Or is it that you want to feel better about yourself and you want somebody to look down on? Because if everybody's housed, that means that you're not that special. I'm just saying. Let's continue.
In Denver, a park literally on the grounds of the state capitol building sees regular police activity from loitering, littering, and crime. And then in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, a battle simmers between President Trump and Mayor Muriel Bowser over homeless encampments, including some that are on the White House front steps. At the very same time, a task force has cleaned up more than 500 tons of trash and debris left behind just since last fall. Of course, we know this executive order also follows a separate order from the Supreme Court that says people without homes can be arrested and fined for sleeping outdoors. Nicole?
All right. So, Alex, critics and
Outdoors. Well, I guess camping's out. Huh? I know somebody's sleeping outdoors. I could be just having a picnic. Maybe I fell asleep. And people are like, oh my God, well, there's trash. Well, you guys don't have as many trash cans out in the city like you used to. Like for here in downtown Orlando, how many trash cans are there? There used to be more. Now they've decreased that. Why? Because they don't want the city workers to have to work as many hours and they don't want to spend as many resources. So guess what? They diminish the amount of trash cans that they have on the street. So there's that. On top of that, they're like, well, we don't want to see drug use. Well, I mean, guess what? If you don't want to see it, don't look. Now that's mean. If you don't want to see it, well, then house them so that you won't have to. But you know, it's funny. The same people that are like, oh, we don't want to see drug use are doing the same, if not different drugs in their own home. It's like, you don't want to see drug use, but you're doing drugs at home. And by the way, caffeine is also a drug, by the way. Whenever you take that sip of coffee or tea, you're doing substances. Whenever somebody's taking a sip of alcohol, they're doing drugs. And yet we don't have a problem when we're at a bar. But let somebody be out on the street with a can of beer that's inside of a paper bag, and then you all got a problem. How many people walking out with them big old stainless steel cups? They got alcohol in it, but you don't know they do. That clear liquid in that water bottle ain't water. They ain't pleasant for no reason. This is just the biggest amount of bullshit I ever heard before in my life. This is sickening.
Critics and homeless advocates are saying that this may actually do more harm than good, and that it's opposite how our country should be trying to solve this crisis. What's their argument?
Yeah, so essentially what this executive order does, it codifies criminalizing homelessness, giving power to police departments out there to actually arrest and fine people simply for living outdoors and living without a home. And really,
hang on, wait a minute. Let me ask you this. If you find somebody for living outdoors because they can't afford a home, then how is finding them actually helping? That's like me trying to rob somebody that ain't got no money. I'm just practicing. You get the logic? Like, how in the world are you going to find somebody who can't even afford a home? How do you do that? Where's the logic in that? It doesn't, you see, it's not congruent, right? The math ain't mathing. The logic ain't logicking.
It's the second part of that sentence, without a home, is what we should be focusing in on, because advocates say that's the main issue all across America. They say that there is not affordable housing for people in cities. That's what's forcing them to live on the streets. And when you go out there and criminalize homelessness, advocates say, well, then that's essentially going to push them away from the city streets and away from the public eye. They're going to go into hiding into the woods, and that's what's going to cause more harm than good. And that's the reason why they say more affordable housing is needed here.
All right, Alex.
By the way, hang on. You gotta love when people go, oh, we need more affordable housing. My question to you is, what is affordable? Because to a billionaire, a Bugatti is affordable. To somebody that makes $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, you know, $1 million home, that's affordable. To somebody who's making well over $100,000 a year, you know, they're making $100,000 a year, they can afford a 2,000 bedroom apartment, $2,000 a month, apartment. They can afford that rent. But when you're making minimum wage and everything is way above what you can pay, then what is that? And they're like, and they always, when it's affordable, they always make it just to the point where you can barely make it. And then they'll go, well, we have programs like Section 8 and different housing vouchers, but the lists are years long. The shortest length of time I've heard for a list is 5 years long. Some places are longer than that. So what do they do in the meantime when they're waiting on the list? What do they do? And then a lot of people, I'm gonna be real. Some people come from households where their parents can co-sign, or they can live with their family, or they can borrow money from their family. Most of us ain't got that. We ain't got it. And then we come from a family that does not have money like that at all. And so then what we do? What do we do? When we talk about the housing that we need to have, and then it's like, okay, affordable, but who sets that affordability? Is it us that sets the affordability? No. Because guess what? When it comes to affordable housing, it's the real estate brokers, it's the real estate agents, it's the real estate empire in this country that sets those prices. And they still want to make money. Because you got to remember, some of these real estate companies, they also have a responsibility to their shareholders. And for the CEOs and the CFOs and COOs, they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, meaning that they still have to make a profit. Right? So the prices are always going to be up there. But let somebody like me say, oh, well, we should have housing that's built and owned by either the municipality or the state. Then people want to get mad. You want the state to do something? You want the state to own it? If it means housing more people, then sure. They'll be competing. Well, then I guess they're gonna have to step their game up or step their game down as far as prices go, because it's too damn expensive. Well, they have to make their money somehow. All right, well, maybe they can get a job, because being a landlord ain't no job. But it gets a little worse than that. It's worse because I can see this not just affecting people who are homeless. I can see this affecting all of us in some dire way. Let me share this as well. So this says what to know about civil commitment, Trump's new policy for homelessness. Some of y'all may have heard about this, but let's get into it. President Trump's new executive order to combat homelessness encourages local governments to revive civil commitment, a process to place people with mental health issues in treatment facilities without their consent. Let me ask you this. What mental illnesses would qualify to be placed in an institution without your consent? How many people have said, oh, well, if you're trans, you have a mental problem? So now we're going to start putting people who are trans in a mental institution? Where's the line? Then it's going to be, well, if you're gay, you have a mental problem. I guess I'm getting locked up in a mental institution. Did you know that mental illness, depression is also listed as a mental illness? It didn't say whether it's temporary mental illness or a permanent mental illness. They just said mental illness. So if you're depressed, I guess you're going in. You know what they used to call a mental illness back then? Especially during the times of slavery? It was called drapetomania. Yes, there was a condition called drapetomania. And you know what that was? That was the condition of Black enslaved people who had this predisposition or this drive to free themselves. That was considered a mental illness back then, called drapetomania. Go ahead, Google it. Go ahead. And so now they're saying, well, we got to institutionalize these people. What about people who are neurodivergent, who may be somewhere on the spectrum? What about them? And you can bet you can bet your bottom dollar that anybody who comes from a wealthy family that has any type of what they consider mental illness or special needs, they're not going to be put inside of an institution. They're not. Because they just so happen to be born in the right family. Lucky them. What about people who may have bipolar disorder? What about people who may have Down syndrome? Would it be just limited to just mental disabilities? What about physical disabilities? What about somebody with cerebral palsy? What about somebody who's on kidney dialysis, like I was? What about somebody who has multiple sclerosis? See, you see where I'm going with this? This is dangerous because it won't be just limited to people who are unhoused. It could expand even further. And this is why it is problematic. Let's continue on. Why it matters: involuntary civil commitment has historically been used as a preventative method to confine people before they harm themselves or others, and most frequently affects vulnerable groups such as LGBTQ+, people of color, and people with disabilities, according to several studies. Context: it says the order Trump signed Thursday calls for shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutions for humane treatment, which the administration says it will restore public order. Here's another question. What is considered humane treatment by their standards? Because according to our government, back in the early 2000s, our government did what was called enhanced interrogation techniques, aka torture. But they didn't want to call it torture, and they didn't consider it torture because, oh, well, we were just trying to fight the terrorists. But no, they were torturing people, which is a war crime. So by what humane conditions are they implementing in this? Especially holding people without their consent, especially if a crime has not been committed. Ruling class, I tell you. Says the order directs officials to determine if federal resources can be used to ensure that those with serious mental illness are not released back into the public solely because government facilities lack enough beds to hold them. The order also requires the Justice Department to evaluate homeless people arrested for federal crimes to determine if they are sexually dangerous persons. That could also include people who are LGBTQ who have never done anything that is non-consensual with adults. I'm sorry, that was consensual with adults. Like, if you're unhoused, but you did something with another consenting adult, but you're of the same sex, well, guess what? They could deem that as, well, that's a mental problem. You're sexually dangerous because we don't agree with you being gay. By the way, LGBTQ youth are overrepresented in homelessness. Yep. It says the other side. Critics say that the order won't help people afford homes, and previous attempts at mass institutionalization frequently violated the 14th Amendment due process rights. It says these executive orders ignore decades of evidence-based housing and support services in practice. So that's from the National Coalition of the Homeless, Donald Whitehead Jr. It says he added the orders represent a punitive approach that has consistently failed to resolve homelessness and instead exacerbates the challenges faced by vulnerable individuals. So it says before the 1960s, people with mental health issues were often thrown into jails for vagrancy alongside criminals, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. So vagrancy is a very interesting word, and a lot of us who are Black know this word. Let's share the definition of vagrancy, shall we? Because I think a lot of us Black people, especially who have studied Black history, we know what vagrancy is. But I want, just for the sake of everybody knowing, because when you know better, you do better. Let's take a look at the definition of vagrancy, shall we? Let's take a look here. It says vagrancy is the state of living as a vagrant, homeless, right? But vagrancy used to be purposeful unemployment. Or they would think that if you weren't at work, if you were just chilling out on the street as a Black freed person, then guess what? They say that you are being vagrant. You are committing vagrancy, and it would place our people in jail. And just because they're not employed. Imagine being put into jail or prison because you're not employed. What does that sound like? All right, so let's continue. It says the standards that state had to follow to commit someone had little legal oversight. So since then, there has been a push to orient facilities towards mental health treatment rather than incarceration. More than 500,000 people were committed to mental health treatment facilities in the 1950s, according to a 2010 study. That number fell to 30,000 by the 1990s with a shift in focus on treatment. The Supreme Court has also stepped in to define the boundaries of civil commitment. In a case out of Florida in 1975, the court ruled that an individual must pose a danger to themselves or others to be held against their will. The court ruled in a separate case in 1979 that a clear and convincing standard of proof is necessary for involuntary civil commitment. So the American Psychiatric Association classified homosexuality as a mental disorder until 1973. Making it easy for states to send LGBTQ people to institutions because of their sexuality. Having a mental abnormality is typically required for admission to a facility, according to the Prison Policy Initiative, which researches the effects of mass incarceration. The group argues that having a definition that broad would imply to all people who are civilly committed are disabled, which made it hard to accurately determine the number of disabled people in the population studied. Patients of color, basically black and brown, are more likely than white patients to be committed to involuntary psychiatric hospitalization, according to a 2022 report from the American Psychiatric Association. Black patients and those who identify as multiracial were still more vulnerable even after factoring confounding variables. So therefore, this is one of the problems because it is a slippery slope. Instead of actually just housing people and making sure that they got the housing first and then everything else follows, they're focused on, well, you need to have housing on your own. And therefore, if not, because of the conditions being so dire, well, we're going to institutionalize you. Let me share something with y'all. Let me. Okay. Okay. It says Trump issues executive order expanding bipartisan war on people without homes. So, of course, there's over 770,000 people. By the way, the homelessness rates have been increasing well over 20% over the last 3 to 5 years. So therefore, the homelessness is actually exploding. It says endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks have made our cities unsafe. There's nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals report having rarely used hard drugs like methamphetamines, cocaine, or opioids. The federal government and the states have spent tens of billions of dollars on failed programs that address homelessness, leaving other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. Well, I mean, one of the best treatment programs you can have is actually just giving people permanent housing, but they never wanted to actually try that. Executive order matches language Trump used on a campaign trail. It says, once our great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares, surrender to the homeless. It says in the video, speeches around the country, Trump promised to end homelessness by creating tent cities where the homeless can be relocated. So, I want to talk about housing first, because this would be the better, that would be the better choice. Let's start here. It says, underscoring that the order has nothing to do with ending homelessness, but rather expanding the police state. The order also directs Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Scott Turner to end funding for housing first policies and instead promote accountability programs. So what actually would work, they don't want to do. Because to them, that's just a handout. You know what? I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. For all the surplus value that these billionaires and 100 millionaires have stolen from the workers, from all of the exploitation that these trust fund babies and their trust fund parents and the robber barons have taken from us, you know what? I'm gonna say it right out loud. You know what? I don't care if they get a handout. Go ahead, give it to them. In fact, they deserve it. Because we've been giving handouts to the wealthy for decades and decades. Therefore, let's flip it. I'm sick and tired of giving handouts to people who already have yachts. I'm sick and tired of giving handouts to people who have mansions. I'm sick and tired of giving handouts to people who are only going to just take that money and squirrel it away in their offshore bank accounts, so then they can actually just hand it to their kids, so that they can be a bunch of snot-nosed little punks who don't give any regard for human life, and then they want to rule the world. No. No, absolutely not. If that means that some people out on the street get a little bit of housing, they maybe get some food stamps, they may be able to get some free healthcare, some treatment. You know what? They're human beings. Why not? They're human beings. They're human beings. If people are like, oh, well, people aren't accountable. The billionaires aren't accountable. You think Peter Thiel is accountable? You think Harlan Crow is accountable? You think Elon Musk is practicing accountability? Mark Zuckerberg? Bill Gates? The leeches of this country, some of them were at Trump's inauguration. Some of them were at the DNC convention. And you guys want to talk about accountability, but you won't even hold anybody else accountable. You guys want to talk about accountability? Release the Epstein list. Oh, but that's a bridge too far. Y'all want to talk about accountability? Hey, practice what you preach. Yo, talking about being unhoused, that gets me fired up, bro. It does. Since housing first policies began with the fact that shelter is a basic human need and should be available to everyone regardless of job status, mental health, or addiction. By ending support of these types of programs, the Trump administration is shifting government support only to programs that require that recipients already be employed or submit to and complete treatment programs before being granted access to housing. And how well has that worked out for us? Right? Maybe instead of trying to push homeless people to jump through these hoops where it's damn near impossible, it's like, and then people will point to, oh, well, that person do it, oh, I did it, blah, blah, blah. They're the exceptions, not the rule. Can you get an ID without an address? Answer. Come on. Answer. Can you get an ID without an address? No, you can't. You can't get an ID without an address. Can you get a job without an ID? No, you can't get a job without an ID. Can you get your social security card? Well, first you have to contact the vital statistics office and where you were born. Some people, they may not even know, or they may not remember. Or they may have been part of an adoption program. You never know. And then they also have to have, in order to be able to get that social security card, that has to be sent to a particular location. If they don't have an address, then they can't get sent the social security card that they applied for. Also, it costs money to get that Social Security card from the Vital Statistics Office. Do they have money? No. Why? Because they're homeless. And how do they get money? By working. But how can they work if they don't have an ID? How can they get an ID if they don't have an address? Well, how can they get an address if they don't have housing? Well, then they just need to find a job. But they don't have an ID. There are programs out there. Yeah, and you know what a lot of those programs do? They also make you jump through hoops in order to be able to just have a cot to sleep on. Some of those programs will force you, well, if you want to stay with us, well, you're going to have to pray to our God. You have to go to our Bible study, and you're going to have to worship the way we do. And then on top of that, there's also other things on top of it. Because they may treat you like trash. Also, you have to worry about people stealing your stuff. You also have to worry about sexual assault that sometimes happens. I've actually spoken to people where they're unhoused, and if they got something from somebody, let's say I had an extra bag of Doritos and I gave it to somebody that's unhoused. If that unhoused person goes to that shelter and opens up that bag of Doritos, guess what? The rule in that homeless shelter is if you open it, you got to share it with everybody in there. Which means that they're not going to be able to have that bag of Doritos. Or that apple. Or that takeout rice that somebody bought them. Or that sandwich. There's so many different variables. Or some homeless people may even have a pet. Believe it or not, some of them do. But they go to a shelter, they can't take their pet with them. And so all these different things, man, that like people don't take into consideration. And so a lot of these things could be alleviated if you implement a housing first policy, but they don't want to do it because ultimately they want it to be like, oh, well, you have to jump through hoops. Let me say something too. All these people that are talking about, oh, well, we want you to have to jump through hoops in order to be able to get housing. Most of the people who are saying that have probably never been unhoused, and they've never had to jump through hoops to get the things that they've gotten. You had a home where you could put your address on so you can get your ID. You had a home where you actually had food. You had a home. And then some of the people were like, well, no, I was homeless. And I'm like, yeah, how hard was it for you? Was it hard? Yeah. Why would you want other people to have to go through that? And most of the time, I'm going to be real with you. And some people are not going to get mad at me for saying this because, well, that's identity politics. Fuck it. I don't care. Some people who say that a lot of times are men that will say that. They'll be like, oh, well, I did this and I got out of it. It was, I was able to get out of it. But at the same time, it's like, okay, but for women, it's a little bit more dangerous because the risk for sexual assault is actually higher. So going to a shelter may be more disadvantage for them. But it's also a disadvantage if you're out there on the street because people can do stuff to you too. Here's another little tidbit of information. Some people who are addicted to substances while they're homeless, they're addicted to those substances because guess what? It keeps them awake so they don't fall asleep because once you fall asleep, that's when you're most vulnerable. Right? Some of these substances are uppers, so they keep you up. They keep you awake. They keep you alert. Yeah. Being homeless is hard. And most people who have really experienced homelessness wouldn't wish it upon anybody else. Not just that, but also you got to think about the mental aspect of it, how people do not see you. You are now automatically invisible. You are invisible to people. Therefore, you are cut off from society, even though you are within arm's reach of other human beings. And some of y'all have never experienced that. Some of y'all will have never experienced that, probably will never experience that. But you lack the sympathy and empathy to be able to look at other people and see other people as you see yourself in other people. And this is part of one of the reasons why this system is so horrible, because it deprives you of your humanity. It deprives you. It talks you out of your empathy for your fellow human being. So therefore, you're less humane to people who are down and out. And that's a part of individualism. Because you lock your humanity away for the sake of self-preservation. But in doing so, you lose yourself. You lose your humanity. Says many states, including those run by Democrats, have already embraced Trump's crackdown against the unhoused. In July 2024, California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order targeting homeless encampments, ordering state agencies to remove them from public areas. Newsom followed that up with an even more draconian order this past May, directing cities to adopt anti-camping ordinances that mandate unhoused individuals to relocate every 72 hours. So here's the thing. Trump is not the only one doing this. The GOP and MAGA are not the only ones that are doing this. It's also Democrats. This is why we talk about being post-duopoly. This is why we talk about leaving both parties, because they do the same things, except for one does it with a scowl and the other one does it with the concerned, trolling face. Oh, we just got to end this homelessness. Those poor homeless people, but we just can't see them. I can't bear the sight of these homeless people. You guys have to move every 72 hours. It's just too much. I can't. I just don't want to be begged for money while I'm eating my brunch. What am I going to do? My ecoy salad. I got to dig in my pockets and give you some change. I don't carry pocket change. You don't want to see homeless people anymore? All right, give them housing. This is why we do mutual aid. This is why. Look, homelessness is going to get worse. And I'm going to tell you why it's going to get worse. Let me share this. A lot of you have probably already seen this before, but let's go over it again. National Low Income Housing Coalition, their Out of Reach program. How much do you need to earn to afford a modest apartment in your state? Right? Hourly wage required to afford a 2-bedroom rental home by state. Let's take a look. Let's look at my state, Florida. Florida is the 9th most expensive state in the United States. Last year it was the 10th. It moved up. It got more expensive. Back before this, it used to be just shy of $35 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Now you have to make $37.27 an hour in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom rental apartment in the state of Florida. And you know why I put this here? Because people are going to go, well, if you just move to a red state, then that will be cheaper for you. if you move to a red state, then it's not going to be as expensive because those blue cities are extremely expensive. This is a red state. How expensive is that? So there is no, Republican cities, Democrat cities, Republican states, Democrat states. No, baby. It is horrible everywhere. Because you got to remember, both parties actually work for the billionaires. They work for the oligarchs. They work for the parasite class. They don't work for us. If they did, then we would have a housing first policy already. We would have a central planning model that actually focuses on people first and profits second. But they don't focus on that. Look here, South Carolina. It's 32nd in the entire country. You have to make $25.91 an hour. Texas is number 22nd, $29.64 an hour. Arizona is the 13th most expensive state, $34.18 an hour you have to make in order to be able to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Let's look at Kansas. 43rd, you have to make $20.87 an hour. You have to work 115 hours a week just to be able to afford that. Illinois, you have to make $29.81 an hour. Right? Let's go to Oregon, $33.02 an hour. New York, you have to make $46.03 an hour. DC, you have to make $44.50 an hour to afford a two-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C. The cheapest place to live is actually Puerto Rico. We have to make $11.64 an hour, but you still have to work overtime. You still got to work overtime. And of course, Hawaii is the second most expensive state with $49.19 an hour. So with that being said, it's easier to become homeless now. It is harder to maintain housing. Meanwhile, the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. In a lot of states like Pennsylvania, their minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. So it would be more beneficial for us to have a housing first policy instead of going with a policy of personal responsibility. Because it's funny how everybody wants to talk about personal responsibility, but nobody wants to talk about community responsibility. See, this is what happens when you separate the individual from the collective. That is the problem with individualism. Humans are by nature a communal species. Therefore, we depend on one another in order to be able to survive. Capitalism severs that tie. It severs it. Therefore, if you're on your own, then guess what? You can't really survive. Meaning, we're killing ourselves as a species. That's what we're doing. That's what we're literally doing right now. So, look, this is why we talk about mutual aid. Doing mutual aid, building dual power, and helping out the most vulnerable in our communities. This is why I was not live last week, because I was at a mutual aid event and we were giving out school supplies for kids. I was volunteering and, you know, there was REAL, Revolutionary Education Action League, that was there, as well as PSL was out there. My comrade and homie, Katie Lewis, as well as Sabiha, they were out there. So we have somebody also from the Florida Palestine Network that was there, as well as the Freedom Feeders Collective that was out there that was helping to serve the people. And this is why we do it, because we know that the governments will not do nearly as much as we could. And if we had those government resources, homelessness wouldn't even exist. But this is why we're working towards establishing an actual government that actually does. This is what is called building dual power, meaning that we build a government up while this one's still in place. Because ultimately, this government is not doing a damn thing for us. So we got to build our own. That's why mutual aid is so important. This is what the Black Panther Party did. And that's how we're going to liberate ourselves. That's how we're going to do it. Because you cannot depend on this system any longer. This system was never built for us. The system isn't broken. It was designed this way. It was evil from the start. This is an evil, wicked system. And it deserves to be in the dustbin of history. Let's start cleaning it up. And making a better future for all of us, not just some of us. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much. I know it's a little long-winded in that, but this is very close to my heart. I cannot stand seeing people, going through things like this. I can't stand it. It hurts. It hurts to see people suffering like this, and it's needless. It's absolutely needless. So I'm going to start off because I know Roger said that he had a. Oh, that just jumped. Hang on. Oh. He had a comment in the private chat. No. Okay, Roger, I got you. All right, hang on. Let me enlarge this so yeah. Alrighty, let's get into this, and then I'll get into the Rumble. See if we have any Rumble rants, and yeah. All right, so Roger, you're a riot, right? He said, "Are you and Sab offended that Roland didn't include you in his haterade call out? I would be. You need some hate thrown your way from the boule." Look, let me tell you something. Okay, first of all. Okay, I know I'm a roly-poly. I admit it. Look, I got cheeks. I'm rotund. I am. But let me tell you something. Look, Vicky Dillard had me rolling. Pun intended. Vicky Dillard had me rolling because she was funny. But listen. First of all, if Roland Martin came after me, because he is a stooge for the Parasite class, I would say I welcome it. Go ahead. Because the thing is like, number one, what are you doing for Black people? Number two, what are you doing for working class people? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing, because he will still cling to the Democratic Party as much as he possibly can. But what has the Democratic Party actually did for us? And you can point to these piecemeal quarter measures, these crumbs that they've done. But if you give crumbs to somebody that's starving, they still die. this is why I don't give much credence to somebody like a Roland Martin, because ultimately, there's not just a Roland Martin he thinks we're stupid, and there's also an elitism, but it's not an elitism as in he's better than us. Is that he thinks he's better. Look, I'm gonna be real. I never spent a day in college. Never did. You don't know why I never spent a day in college? Because I didn't want student loans. So instead, what I do, I went to a magnet high school where I learned culinary arts as an elective, and I went into the industry. But then I got sick, and so now, a few years later, I finally got a kidney transplant, and I will be getting back into the workforce. But ultimately, somebody like a Roland Martin, he wants to keep you within a system that still exploits. They just want you to be exploited with a smile. And I don't believe in that. I may have some disagreements with some Black Americans, but at the same time, I see their fervent desire to do what they can for the Black community. Now, with that being said, I, as a Black man, will never embrace the same system that enslaved my ancestors on this land. I will never embrace that system, and that system is capitalism. I cannot, in good conscience, embrace a system that enslaved my ancestors. The fact that I can only go back as far as the 1700s, I can't go back further because his parents were considered property, so they weren't really listed as people. That says something. So I just want to say that. Yeah. So I'll leave it there. You see, so Roger says New Yorkers welcome AOC's Homes Act Justice for All. James, AOC has not reintroduced this into new 119th congressional term. It is, as you will read in the article, is based on a state bill sponsored by New York State Senator Cordell, Claire and Assemblywoman Emily Gallagher, S 5674 and A 6265. Also, Assemblyman Zorhan Mamdani is a co-sponsor. Thank you very much for that. The New York State, he said, place in chat for examination and adoption for CBIA. Okay. I shall place that in the chat. Thank you very much for that. It says this bill proposes the creation of a new state authority charged with building new high-quality, permanently affordable social housing in the form of both rentals and cooperatives by partnering with tenant organizations who wish to purchase their accommodations and convert them to cooperatives, or by acquiring and rehabilitating existing distressed housing. The authority can also keep people in their homes and permanently preserve affordability where it already exists. The housing crisis now faced by our state requires not only bold action, but durable solutions. The proposed Social Housing Development Authority can complement existing affordable housing programs while offering unique benefits and paying long-term dividends. A state authority can streamline and fast-track developments by incorporating all necessary powers and functions under one roof, eliminating unnecessary expenses and bureaucratic delays. It can muster the capital necessary to take on large projects or acquisitions. It can cross-subsidize across its portfolio. It can act as a public land bank or trust. It can undertake projects with external organizations seeking to invest in social housing. For example, pension funds. It can partner with nonprofits, land trusts, and community benefit organizations seeking to manage affordable housing. Over time, the existence of a public developer like the SHDA would steadily expand a portfolio of permanently affordable social housing in New York, stabilizing the explosive growth in rents and land values and making New York a more livable state for present and future residents. He says, as you can see from the article, this is last year, so that's why I provided the updated bill number for New York State bills in case anyone wishes to look it up and run as a CBI amendment in their state. Like I said before, just like AOC based it on the state bill, you can base a citizen ballot initiative on the state bill as well. This establishes the New York State Social Housing Development Authority as a public benefit corporation to increase the supply of permanently affordable housing in the state through the acquisition of land and renovation or rehabilitation of existing real property, and through the construction of new permanently affordable housing. Now, I know what you're thinking. You see those two words, affordable housing. Well, just so that you know, this bill was crafted with those from grassroots organization Housing Justice for All, who wants more decommodified housing in the room. Okay. Thank you very much for that, because that is what I agree with. Thank you so much. Now, Roger says Trump is a real estate guy. Making people homeless through his gentrification projects has always been part of his game. By the way, tomorrow, in regards to this topic, I will be joining on a Zoom meeting with the New York State Tenant Block sister organization to Housing Justice for All, as a goal of organizing 250,000 tenants into a powerful collective unified force. Beautiful, Roger. Very beautiful. I want you to let me know exactly how it goes. Together, we will transform New York's political landscape by bringing together the economic power of tenants organized in their buildings with the political power of tenant voters into statewide infrastructure, all to see how this would apply to the suburbs where most renters live in a house. Also, just like in last year's congressional bill, including chartering a network of public banks, I will push it. It would be a good idea to coalesce with the New Economy Project, who has been pushing for the New York Public Bank, and practice sell them on. Instead of doing these things in silos, team up with not only them, but campaign for a New York Health Act, invest in our New York Act, New York Renews, and all these other leftist organizations to come together with one main demand. Push the legislature to place an amendment on the ballot that would give us the option to place our own amendments on the ballot. Once we got that, then we could break into the lines of Voltron and go into our corners to start crafting our own initiative amendments. Okay, and that's the screenshot from the PDF from the outreach program. Shows the most expensive jurisdictions. I already have this. But it's good to take a look. I'll just do Florida really quick because due to the sake of time. But in Florida, thank you very much for this, Roger. Here we go. Here in Florida, you have to make $37.27 an hour in order to be able to afford a two-bedroom apartment, right? The most expensive. So our minimum wage is $13 an hour. It will go up to $14 this September. So July, August. So in 2 months, our minimum wage will increase to $14 an hour, right? And that's part of a law that was implemented a few years ago, where it will go up to $15 an hour by September 2026. And then readjust for inflation. So that's what we did as a citizen ballot initiative in the state of Florida. It says the most expensive areas. So Fort Lauderdale is $45.92 an hour to afford a two-bedroom apartment. Then the second most is Miami, Miami Beach, $44.79. Monroe County is $43.73. West Palm Beach is $42.06. And in Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Clearwater is $38.04. So that's on the west coast of Florida. So this is how much it costs. And I'm guessing the sixth most will probably be Orlando, because Orlando was in the top 5 last year. And so, yeah, Orlando's gotten bad as far as housing prices, which is where I live. And let's go to New York since we're talking to Roger. So it is $46.03 an hour, right, to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. The most expensive is New York City at $53.46. Westchester County is $53.46 as well. Nassau and Suffolk are $49.73. You see, Poughkeepsie, Newburgh, and Middleton is $36.67, and then Kingston is $34.60. So it is extremely expensive, right? Oh, thank you very much for this. Okay, so I will put the share folder in the chat as well. So everybody, if you guys want to take a look at that and share it with, let your family and friends see how expensive it is. It is, that's how bad it is. Okay. I'm going to check to see if I have any. Oh, thank you very much for this. You said you got screenshots of each data I sent you. Yes, I do have that. Thank you so very much for that, Roger. Appreciate it. Just making sure that I didn't miss any super chats in the chat. And due to the sake of time, I'm going to have to move on. And I do apologize, guys. And part of that's my bad, because I was late because of the mistake that was made. But needless to say, I'll get myself back on. I'll get back on track for the next segment. Zoya says, FYI, comrades, you can lie about income on your housing applications, edit your bank statements, copy, paste, add zeros. They can't verify. I don't know, but okay. I don't know if that's true or not, but Zoya, I think, knows more than me, so interesting. Oh, Friendly Brilliant says the domestic violence shelters don't allow dogs, and so domestic violence victims don't dare leave, so their dogs won't be unalived. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's also because people forget that pets are part of the family. Some people who, like I grew up without pets. I grew up without pets, and unfortunately, I still don't have a pet, but I would, but I still see them as, I still see them at, as what people say, they're a part of the family. So sorry, guys, I'm just checking to see if I missed, because I was talking for a long time. I'm just checking to see if we have any super chats left. Oof. Man, y'all are chatty today. I love it. All right, so I think we're pretty much good. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Okay, perfect. All right. So before we continue, just want to thank you guys for bearing with me on that. And I appreciate it very much. You guys have been, awesome today. So I appreciate that. Just want to give a big thank you. So let's get into the next segments here. And don't forget, again, like, subscribe. And also, what did you guys think about the first segment? Do you agree with housing first model? If you do, then why? And if you don't agree with it, why don't you agree with it? Let's start our conversation as well, you know, even if you're just watching this on the rewatch, okay? So let's have that conversation. And if you know about housing first, those of you who may know, check the comments. And, you know, if somebody has something a little bit off or something a little bit wrong, be kind and, you know, offer, you know, the facts, right? And let people know. And, you know, some people just don't know. Some people are unaware. And remember, when it comes to talking to people, we were all propagandized at one time. So give people grace. All right. All right. So let's continue. All right. We talked about Trump's war on the poor, or as I was corrected earlier, really is the ruling class war on the poor. This is a class war that has affected us deeply. Now we're going to go into what I've been wanting to talk about since yesterday. The Handala has been captured. Let's get into it right now. So the Israel forces have captured the activists and organizers on the Handala. The Handala is part of the Freedom Flotilla that was on its way to Gaza. And they were carrying things like supplies, prosthetics, baby formula, medicine, food for the people in Gaza. And there were people from Western countries that were on board. Namely, one of them who has been a guest on RBN, Christian Smalls, who is also part and helped organize the Amazon Labor Union, was on board as well. They are now all in the custody of Israel because apparently they were so dangerous that Israel couldn't allow baby formula to reach the shores of Gaza to feed babies. Zionism is an evil ideology. It's evil. I say that because of the 21st century Holocaust that we are witnessing, that we have been witnessing since October of 2023 at its greatest intensity, but really has been going on since 1948, when it originally started. And so the Handala was actually denied protection from Egypt. And so as they were on their way to Gaza, they also had noticed that there were drones flying above them from the Israeli forces. And as we were watching live from the feed kept cutting in and out, which means maybe, just maybe, I don't know, but maybe that Israel was trying to jam the signals so that we couldn't see what was going on. So let's get into this. Let me share first as well. Shout out to Christian Smalls as well as everybody else on the Handala for doing this remarkable thing for people in Gaza. And those of you who have seen some of the horrible images of children starving, this is some of the motivation for why people like Christian Smalls are out there. So let's hear what he has to say.
My name is Chris Smalls from the United States. If you are seeing this video, we have been intercepted at sea and have been kidnapped by the Israeli occupation forces or forces of the country complicit in Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. I appeal to my comrades, friends, family, to everyone to put pressure on the U.S. government to demand my release and the release of my comrades as soon as possible. Thank you.
So they all made messages just like this, that if they are kidnapped by Israel, then this is what needs to happen. Make demands of the government for their immediate release and the release of their comrades that were on the flotilla. And all this for delivering baby formula, prosthetics, medical supplies, things like that. They were so dangerous that they had to do this, that they had to intercept. I want to share this with you because I want to share, and this is going to be tough, but you need to see this because people need to know how bad it is. It wasn't just the bombings. It wasn't just the murders of Palestinians. It's now the starving of them. It is now, they have went from not just quick deaths to slow deaths. Shout out to Status Quo for this one. Thank you so very much. This voicemail from Mahmoud Al-Baya. So he starts with says, the silence continues and continues.
The silence continues and continues, and death continues, and no one cares. Hunger is increasing day by day, and we die 100 times every day. There is absolutely no food in Gaza and no drinkable water. Within days, you will see people dying by the thousands from hunger, as everything they own has run out and aid is still forbidden to us. I say with all sadness that we have let everyone down. We are now in the depth of famine after we warned about it. Everyone is in a state of extreme dizziness. We only have a few days left. Either you bring in food or we rest from hunger and die.
They're not starving because someone among them is preventing food and resources in. They're dying because Israel is refusing to allow resources and food in. This is what's going on. Israel's so evil that even when they go to get food out of desperation, they will run to the area where food is that has been dropped off. And then Israeli forces, these demons, will start shooting at them, using food as bait to murder and mass kill Palestinians. There are men, women, and children being murdered just for getting food to sustain themselves. I heard, I'm trying to remember who said it, but somebody had dropped flour on the ground and it was mixed in with dirt, and they still picked it up so that they can take it back to their home, because at least that was something for them. Flour mixed with dirt. This system, I wish I could say what I really want to say. I wish I could. I wish I could. But this system needs to go. It is horrific and is murdering hundreds of thousands of people. I'm willing to bet that we're probably close to about 500,000 people have died in Gaza already. 500,000, 500,000 people. A majority are children. And this is why the Handala was on its way, to preserve the life of people, to preserve the life of children, babies, to keep them alive. This is what they were doing. But because of what they decided, that Israel decided, is that they want to massacre and murder people because they want their land. Zionists are a depraved people. I don't care what religion they are. This also goes out to Christian Zionists. Zionists like Richie Torres. Zionists like Donald Trump. Zionists like Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson. Zionists like Kamala Harris, like Joe Biden, like J.D. Vance. Zionists who are preaching on the pulpits. Zionists in black churches that are preaching that Jesus is loving and God is love. And yet, they're willing to use the lives of Palestinians to bring forth the rapture. Christian Zionists, and I'm going to say this with my full chest, 10 toes down, I don't give a damn. You are the Antichrist that you warn people about. You are it. If you want to see the Antichrist, look in the fucking mirror. Christian Zionists, shame on you. Shame on you. As a former evangelical, how in the hell can you stand by and allow this to happen? How can you stand by a genocidal, settler colonialist nation as they are murdering Jesus people? God damn you all. This is how depraved Zionists are. And I'm sorry to subject you guys to this, but I want you guys to see how depraved they are. Let's take a look. This is a Zionist comedian. Let's go.
I believe that Palestinian films should win any awards ever because they only know how to play one role, victim. You know, it's like My family is so starving. They only got 5 trucks of humanitarian aid. Please donate, link in the bio. It's the only shit they know how to play.
Well, it's good to know what passes for comedy in Israel, isn't it?
No, okay, they know how to play one more thing. Fake dead baby. Yeah, I don't know why they can't fucking nail that role. They never fucking land it, right? It's like all you have to do is lay down and not move. You want to see me win a Palestinian Oscar right now?
That person should have been dragged off stage, obviously, in a rational world. Like, imagine during Rwanda, the genocide there, someone responding like that. That kind of clip will be analysed, not by comedy experts, but by historians and lawyers and judges for the reckoning that's going to come.
That's Zionists. They laugh. They laugh at the death. They're laughing at the Holocaust. That's how depraved they are. And just a reminder, Zionism is a political ideology. Political ideology. And this is why the people who are on the Handala were on their way, because they wanted to show humanity to a people that have been denied it. And yet, while they were on their way, they were denied humanity even more. I also want to share this as well, because people need to know and see what is being done to them. And sometimes you have to force people to look and tell them, don't turn your eyes away. Let's take a look at here. This says, my MAGA evangelical neighbor breaks down. So let me enlarge this just so that everybody can see. All right, let's go.
Show you some videos. All right. I'm going to show you a few videos, and they may be hard to watch, but you're a man. You can handle it. And you need to see the truth. You're not going to shelter yourself from this. You know, you're going to see the truth. This is happening right now with our taxpayer money. I just want you to watch it and take it in and understand that if you once upon a time didn't know or believe that this was going on, then you sure as hell need to see it now that you know, right? Okay. Don't look away, Michael. This is what the truth looks like. Here.
I've been seeing images like that and worse since October of 2023. I have seen some of the most gruesome images I've ever seen before in my life that you would think that it was out of a horror movie, and yet it was real life. I have seen inside the cavities of skulls of children. And you wonder why the Freedom Flotilla was on its way to Gaza. You wonder why people are out in these streets with Palestinian flags, with keffiyehs saying free Palestine. Well, this is why. And many of us who are marginalized, many of us who have been subject to this type of treatment, we know it from a mile away. We Black people, particularly a lot of us Black Americans, we've seen it in our own communities, in our own families. We've heard the stories. We know what it's like. So this is why when we see these things happen to other people, we're like, no, this is wrong. This shouldn't happen. Thankfully, many people who are Jewish who said never again, they meant it. Many people who are not even Jewish, who lived through the Holocaust, said never again, and they meant it. But some people, there's no heart there. There's no conscience. Sometimes you have to throw it in their face in order for them to know. And tell them, don't look away. And as this channel being post-duopoly, I say this as well. If you voted for Kamala Harris, this is also on you. If you voted for Donald Trump, this is also on you. If you voted for Obama, this is also on you. If you voted for George W. Bush, this is also on you. Because they all stood by Israel. All of them. They have stood by when they did these horrible things. And just to let you guys know, the gentleman actually said in the comments that this is edited because the gentleman there crying was so distraught at the other images that he's not even showing in this. This is the lightest one. That the guy couldn't even breathe. He was hyperventilating how bad it was. That's how bad it is. And you guys have access to it. You guys have access to this on Twitter. Many of you who are watching right now have seen some of these images. So if a Zionist gets in your face, guess what you do? You pull that video up and you put it in their face. Let the screams and cries of Palestinian children haunt them in their dreams. May they see those images burn in their brain for the rest of their goddamn life. Because you know what? They're standing by that. That's what they're doing. Let's finish this up.
Don't look away. It's ugly, ain't it? It's evil, isn't it?
Yes, Satan is evil, bro. Destroys kids like that. He uses people like that to destroy children because he hates children. Satan hates children. All of our hearts are So messed up. Do that stuff to the little girl.
Yeah.
Little baby girl. Dude. How can we escape it? How can we be forgiven for it? How can we be free? How can someone be forgiven for that? I mean, honestly. And how can God?
What did Jesus say about he who harms a child? Do you remember?
Oh, it would be easier for them to tie a rope around their neck and be tossed into the ocean.
It'd be better that a millstone be tied around their neck and they'd be tossed into the ocean. Yes, that's exactly what he says. Yeah. Our leaders, everybody up there in Washington, all these big corporations, every company that you see that has a big logo on the freeway at your grocery store, Israelis, the citizens of Israel, 80% of them, even the church here in the United States. Do you know what? The church here in the United States, they supported this for the past year. They were cheering it on. They cheered it on. Churches were begging that we send more money and bombs to Israel to do more of this shit. And they thought that little girl is a terrorist. We did that. All of us were complicit, including myself when I was a Zionist 20 years ago. All of us play a role in what happened to that little girl. And by the way, that little girl is one of about, I would say, 400,000. That's just one little girl. Look, Michael, I know that was hard to see, brother. But the thing is that you have to stare evil in the face and not flinch. Stare evil in the face until it looks away from you. Don't look away from evil. You stare at evil until it looks away from you. We have to fight this. This is being done in our name with our tax money. So when you pay your taxes, that's where that goes. Now you understand why we need a revolution, brother. Because you cannot vote your way out of this shit. You're not going to be able to go to the ballot box, put in your little fucking ticket, and then hope and pray that the right person gets elected to stop that shit. That's not how it fucking works. That's not what God expects of us either, brother.
No.
You have to have a fucking revolution. What did Jesus also say? Sell your coat, sell your tunic, and go buy yourself a sword. Why did he say that? Because he knew that there will come a time when you have to wage war against evil.
This is why they were on the Handala. So let's get into that video. Thankfully, when I joined, there was 13,000 watching live. Then, before the feed went out, it was over 17,000. After that, by the time the IDF got on the Handala, it was over 25,000 people watching on YouTube alone. Over 20,000 people were watching on Instagram. And many of us were screen recording, including myself. So I'm going to share that right now. So here are the group that's on the Handala. I said the Handala had just been captured by Israeli forces. The ship of unarmed, mostly Americans, were considered dangerous for having baby formula on board. So let's take a look at this. So as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, this is the feed from the Handala. And then in the one on the upper right-hand corner, you can see the Israeli forces. Their boat is circling the Handala. So you can see up here in the lower right-hand corner, I'm gonna mute it for a second while I keep playing. There's the ship where more IDF soldiers are actually there. And I just wanted people to see that this was live. And see right here, they see that there's a camera. And so they turn it down so that you couldn't see exactly what happened. Because Israel doesn't want evidence of what they do. They do not like evidence. By the way, what they just did was a war crime. And so then he disconnects it. His hand goes around to disconnect the camera. Thankfully, there's other cameras on the right-hand side. But he disconnected that one. And so they wanted to make sure that you couldn't see exactly what was going on. And so then the feed pretty much goes out. I also shared part of this as well. The Freedom Flotilla Coalition said the psychological warfare is going on. The connection is going and coming back. We are prepared for anything. IOF has no right to kidnap us. It says the IOF took all of our Starlinks. As you can see, they are afraid of a ship with baby formula. This is an illegal kidnapping right now. Please call your governments to push for the safety of our passengers. So that's why I wanted to also share some of the chat as well. So that's what happened yesterday. And it was local time in Gaza. It was after 11 p.m. local time in Gaza. And so this is why it's so important for us to keep our eyes on events like these. And this is why it's important for us to fight against the system. Because this will continue to keep happening. Now, here's another point, and I was going to bring this up, but thank you so much for saying this, Zoya. So it says Christian Small is now on a hunger strike. Yes, he said before Israeli forces intercepted them, he said if and when they do, he will officially be on a hunger strike. I'm going to tell you this right now. If something happens to Christian Smalls, Israel is to blame. Israel is to blame if something happens to Christian Smalls. Think about that. Now, a couple weeks back, maybe less than that, Christian Smalls came here on RBN and had a conversation with Rome. And so I am so glad that he agreed to come on before he left so that we can hear what he has to say, hear his conviction. I have to say, regarding the people, the passengers on the Handala, Huge amount of respect and admiration goes out to them for doing this. Huge amount. Because you have to love the people in this world in order to be able to do that. You have to love humanity. And that's what this was based on. It was based on love for humanity. And so I'm hoping that they are safe and they are freed. And I'm also hoping that those supplies can get to the Palestinian people in Gaza. Ultimately, my hope is that Palestine is free. But we have to do our part here at home. Changing the system is part of that. And changing the system can be many different parts to take down this machine. You take one wheel, I'll take the next. You take the transmission, you take the engine, you take the electrical computer systems, take this machine down. Do what you can. Throw a wrench in the gears, whatever you can. But please continue to support. Now, I don't have faith in our elected officials, elected, more chosen. I don't have faith in them to actually act to help. But if you want to throw the spaghetti against the wall to see if it sticks, please make sure to contact anybody and everybody who is in government right now and push for their immediate release and push for the release of aid into Gaza. Do what you can. And also, the best thing you can also do, please do this. Find a mutual aid organization. Get together with them. If you have to, or if you have to volunteer with them, fine. If you want to start your own, fine. But join a mutual aid organization and start helping the people on the ground in your area. Grow the organization. It could be mutual aid as far as giving out food. It could be toiletries. It could be transportation. It could be tenant cooperatives, tenant unions too. It could be things like that. Look, that is part and parcel of how we hurt this system, because this system is hurting us. And Zoya said something earlier. I want to post it up, but I remember it, but I want to post it up too, because she said something and I think is absolutely important. Because if we think it's not going to happen to us here at home, you're mistaken, sadly mistaken. Let me see. And I got to thank Zoya for this. So I'll just paraphrase. But Zoya said that something to the effect of, oh, I found it. Palantir technology is being tested in Palestine. It will come home. Yes. And here's the thing. Capitalism is like a boomerang. Because for us Black Americans, it may have started with us here, but then it goes abroad, but then it comes right back. And we don't want it to come back, and we don't want it to go to anybody else. So what do? You break the boomerang. You break it so it no longer can fly. That's what we have to do with this system. Because we people, we Black Americans, we know all too well about what the system does to people. So we need to break that boomerang so that, number one, it no longer happens to us. Number two, it doesn't happen to anybody else. Break the boomerang. Because we don't want to suffer, and we don't want anybody else to suffer like we did. And this is where our compassion lies. So we do what we can. So with that being said, let's do the most for everybody. Solidarity with the people in Handala. Solidarity with the people of Palestine. And solidarity with all people who are oppressed around the world. All right, so we are going to get into the comments. And then we will head on out. So I'm going to go into the Rumble really quick to see. Looks like, okay, we're good. No Rumble rants so far. Oh, let me go into this. Oh. Okay, yeah, let me put this in the chat. This is from the earlier segment, but for people that have that in there as well, I forgot to put that in the chat too. Thank you very much for that, Roger. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. Let's go into here. Thank you so much to Chima Maru. Says the scariest part is that people nowadays are starting to see mass murder as normal. My biggest fear is that it will be seen as something like a sport. Yeah, I feel I have the same fear. I have the same fear. Oh my gosh. And that it's legitimate. It's very legitimate. This is why we have to organize, man. This is why we got to do it. You know, and the thing is like also I'm gonna say this too. You know, all those legacy left channels that tell you to, when they say organize, they mean just within the electoral system. When we say organize here on RBN, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about organizing outside of the electoral system and doing mutual aid. Now, if you want to do something that is involved electoral, then do it outside of duopoly. But the primary thing is organizing outside of the electoral system, because ultimately, guess what? You have to break this system. And you're going to have to operate outside of it. This is why mutual aid organizations, shout out to REAL out here in Orlando. REAL is an acronym for Revolutionary Education Action League. Shout out to them because they're doing the damn thing on the ground here in Orlando. And shout out to Freedom Feeders Cooperative as well. KD Lewis, my homie, doing the damn thing. Shout out also to Florida Palestine Network, doing amazing work, giving attention to what's going on in Gaza, as well as the West Bank, as well as the whole of Palestine. They have been very instrumental in me knowing more about the situation and about this Holocaust that's going on, or as they call it, the Nakba. You know, thank you so very much to all of you guys. Thank you so much for Fatman TV. Said, oh, thank you for gifting of a channel membership. Appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right. Oh, here's a clip of Roman Christian Smalls. Thank you so very much for that, Zoya. I'm sure you guys can click on that and see after this stream. I'm going to get to Sensei says we need to talk more about mutual aid and worker strikes. A live show on the streets would be a great boost to get people educated and motivated. Yeah. It's kind of hard to do. It's kind of hard. Well, for me personally, I don't have transportation to get out there. And so I did share about 5 minutes of the mutual aid or action that was done here in Orlando. I have to be careful though, because I don't want the people in the neighborhood to feel like they're being exploited. So that's one of the reasons why I try not to show their faces. But next time I'll ask a couple of them if they're willing to be interviewed on camera. If not, then, then I'll just share, with members of the organizations. But I try to be very careful of that because I don't want them to feel exploited. Like, oh, look at us, we're doing this good thing for people. We're not doing it because we want to look good. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And we want to encourage other people to do the right thing as well. Now, Zoya, if you're still in the chat, are we doing a meeting? I want to make sure. I didn't see anything. But needless to say, I have to get going. Anyway. Yes, Ryder in Black says the ruling elite have always brutalized American workers. Read A People's History of the United States. I think that's by Howard Zinn. I want to get that as well. Okay. Thank you very much, Zoya. Started to get scared there, because, I don't want Sabby and Nick to be like, Jaybe, you were supposed to be here on time. I'm like, I'm sorry. Mommy, Daddy, please don't send me to my room. But yeah, so appreciate it. They wouldn't send me to my room, but they would give me a strong talking to. But I deserved it, But look, guys, I'm telling you right now, do the best that you can with what you got. And listen, when you do, I'm gonna say this: when you do mutual aid, document it. Pictures, video. If you have people who are there who are partaking of the mutual aid, ask them for their consent before you videotape first or you record first. And then if they say yes, then go ahead. If not, then just show yourself and the members, with their consent, and show what you're doing. And once you do that, share it with us. Tag us. Let us know. Let us celebrate a victory of doing mutual aid. Okay? Celebrate that victory and let us celebrate with you. Because, look, let's be real. Twitter is a cesspool of a lot of negativity and clapbacks. I want to see more positivity. I want to see more mutual aid sharing. I want to see more building of dual power sharing. I want to see wholesome content of people coming together. Tag me, tag Savvy, tag Rome, tag Nick, tag Zoya. Zoya loves that stuff. Zoya she's wholesome. Right? Tag us in doing mutual aid and helping out one another and helping educate about the system. Tag us, show it, do it. And it doesn't have to be you just doing it all by yourself. No. Get a friend. I don't care if you have $5. You got $5 and they got $5. All it takes is one act of mutual aid, and at least you help one person. That is one person that got some help. We got to break the system, and that's the way to do it. All right, everybody. So, love you guys. Gonna head out. You guys, oh, Roger said DM. Okay, all right. If it's not too long, because the brother got to eat, I got to get going. Roger, I'm looking at DM. Yeah, I don't have time to actually read the act that AOC put out there. I did share it in the chat already. Yeah, I don't have time to read that, but I did put it in the chat for people to take a look at. So, guys, please share it with us. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. And apologies for my tardiness in that regard, but I'm glad we were able to get this story out here. Also, just to let you guys know, let me reach for this. On my channel, on Tuesday at 3 p.m., I'm having 2 guests. That's right. 2. Unos, dos. Both. Hi. I'm having 2 guests. So the first guest I'm going to be having is Andrea Rosario Gabori. She is a reporter as well as an activist. And she actually wrote her memoir, is How I Survived the Sierra Leone Civil War and Other Untold Stories. So I'll be having a conversation with her on Tuesday. We're going to be talking about Africa. We'll be talking about the organization, not the organization, but the alliance of the Sahel states. This is really Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. We'll be discussing that because I think it's important that we talk more about what's going on in Africa. There's a lot that is going on that is promising, very promising. So we're going to be getting into that. Also, I'm going to be having on Miss Akile Enai. She's with the African People's Socialist Party. She is in that the Uhuru movement along with Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And I'll be having her back on as well. So I'm gonna have 2 guests. So it is going to be a wonderful day of conversation with these 2 ladies who are doing the things that I admire on the ground and organizing. And so I cannot wait to have them on. So we'll have Miss Andrea. She'll be on first, and then Akile Enai will be on second. And so I hope you guys are able to tune in. The link to my channels in the description as well, if you guys would like to take a look at at that. Okay. And yeah, so thank you so much to everybody for tuning in. Please continue to be kind to yourselves and kind to each other. I want to end this stream with something wholesome. We talked about a lot of heavy stuff, but I think it's important for something wholesome because you know what? We need something like that, right? And so I want to share this as well because you guys deserve it. And then we'll shout out the patrons at the end. So and yes, Zoya, I'm going to give you the last word. She says, when you see people call themselves revolutionary, always talking about destroying, but never talk about building or creating, they are not revolutionary. Absolutely, Zoya. Salute to you. All right, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other. Water your plants. Water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. Smoke up if you got them. Drink up if you got them. If you ain't got them, watch something funny. Joy is revolutionary. Read because reading is fundamental. Or watch something wholesome that gives you good feels in the heart, like you're about to do right now. I love you guys for watching. Mwah! Forehead kisses. I'll see you guys in the next one. You guys have yourself a good one. Shout out to the kitten in New York. I'll see you guys in the next one. Deuces, Bruces.
Oh my God.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
You gotta call somebody. You gotta call somebody. Everybody's looking at everything. It was an event, and I think it was by itself because I didn't see any more attackers. That's where activity going around. Yeah. Thank you. Word. Thank you, girl.
Who would have known that yesterday when I was going to work, I would come back home with a brand new cat. And here I am with a brand new cat. So this is the update that you guys have been waiting for. This is Emmy, chauffeur MTA. I fed her some milk at first and because we thought she was 4 to 5 weeks, but she's not. So all she did was sleep all day. She had the zoomies like crazy, but we love that. I also have a dog. So that was a lot to experience, but they're slowly getting along. Today was her veterinarian appointment. There's her in an Uber. And then we also put her in my dog's stroller. So she was a little pissed off at me at this point, but she be all right. We went to Bond Vet. Shout out to them. They did a really, really good job with everything. They gave us a $100 discount. And the minute we walked in, my girl was famous. Everybody knew Emmy before I even said hello. Everyone loved her and they treated her so well. So we found out she was 1.5 pounds, my girl. And so she's not 5 weeks. She is about 7 weeks. They checked her heart. They checked her temperature and everything. This is her getting her first shot, my big girl. She didn't cry. She didn't blink, nothing. Because that's my girl, just like her mom. She needs about 3 to 4 more shots, but we have to wait until she's 12 weeks. But luckily, they gave her a dewormer and flea medication. So this is the part of the video that I was crying my eyes out. They gave my baby and me an award for bravery and a bunch of other stuff. And I love that so, so much. I want to thank everyone for their support. I really, really appreciate everything. We ended up going to Petco and got some essentials for her actual food instead of milk this time because she can't drink it anymore. And for everyone asking, the Amazon wish list and GoFundMe for Emmy would be in my bio. Thank you again, guys.